Hey everybody, Ben here with Decent Power Products with
Brad Menden from Accuair Suspension.
And we have our Gladiator, which has Accuair on it, along with a bunch of other stuff that went together perfectly and there were no issues. Incorrect. We've put a lot of parts on this vehicle and they don't all talk together, which is why we had to get Brad out here to come get the air suspension dialed in. So first off, if you didn't know, this is our Gladiator. It's got a log arm suspension system on it. Also, it's got drop-in axles, factory axles, which are meant to talk with stock stuff, but it's not stock anymore, and now airbags. And some E-CLIK shocks, which are pretty badass. But airbags need to get dialed in. You're nice enough to come down and get things set. So tell me about the airbag system that's on here right now.
Okay, so this is basically what we call a dynamic lift kit. And really what that means is it's a lift kit, but it's so much more than that. So it has the ability to be set at multiple heights depending on what you want to do. So for instance, here we're at a 4-inch lift right now. This is our ride height. We can change this and we can go to a position 1, which would be 2 inches lower than this. Now, times when you'd want to do that is, for instance, if you're driving on the highway. You get down, you get a little bit stiffer feel on the road, it's a little bit more stable, better mileage too, if that matters to you. The other heights we have are 3, which is a 6-inch lift. So what that's going to do is give you more approach and departure angle, kind of give you a better approach at these obstacles as you're coming up to them. The other really nice part about this, not only being the adjustable suspension, is you can load the back with whatever you have and it's going to level it right up. So this is big for your overlanders. Let's say you're a weekend warrior, you're putting hundreds of pounds in the back, and then during the week you take all that weight out. You want to be back to level with coil springs. That just isn't going to happen. You have one or the other. You got to determine what load scenario you want to run with. For this guy, not an issue. Basically, it's going to auto level as soon as you hit ignition. If you load it up, get you up, take all the weight out, it's going to level back down for you to recorrect for that. Another nice thing about that is stability control. It keeps your alignment nice, pure, so that no matter what you have in it, it's always going to be the same driving characteristics.
That is pretty cool, especially as you start lifting these trucks. A lot of people, you kind of have to sacrifice. Like, do I want this to handle right on the road? Do I want this to steer well? Or do I want to just have a tall Jeep? And this, you kind of get the best of both worlds because you can actually have, you can set that front end suspension, and once you have your settings on there, it's always going to be in the right spot no matter what. And especially for those overlander guys, you get your extra 1.5 tons of granola on the back, this thing levels it right back up. You get that big 10 on there, levels it right back up. So don't worry, you can take as much granola as you want. So as I mentioned before, we have a lot of extra stuff on this vehicle, which has caused the airbags to, well, this is a custom kit. So that's honestly why Brad's here as well. But what were some of the issues that we were running into that you had to come out here and remedy?
Okay, so we sell a Gladiator Jeep kit. This kit comes with control arms, it comes with shocks, it comes with everything ready for you to put it on. Not what you guys ended up doing. You guys ended up running your own long arm kits, own shocks, and that's fine, that's okay. But one of the issues with that is when we make the kit with our control arms, we mount the height sensors where they need to be to get proper range and adjustability for the kit. Not the case on here. We have to come out, and what we do is basically find out where we need to mount linkages. In mounting these guys up, you're looking for 2 things, really. One, biggest thing, does it interfere anywhere? Does it hit the vehicle? You don't want to do that. You don't want to break the linkage, because if you get into a situation where you break the linkage, the system's not going to auto level for you. You can manually kind of get it to a point where you can get it home, but it's not going to do all the hard thinking for you. 2, these sensors operate off voltage. So we want a good span of voltage because the larger the range from all the way up to all the way down in the voltage spectrum, the more accurate the system's going to be. It basically comes down to a sensitivity. And so one of the things you guys were kind of needing help with was you couldn't get the right range out of it. We were looking at like 1 volt, and that's not really where we want to be. We want a minimum of 3, 3.5, 4 volts kind of to get our high adjustability to where the system is going to be able to control in and just hit that point every time without issue. So it's a link on a sensor, and depending where you put it, it rotates like this, and a link comes here. The farther in we go with suspension movement, the more voltage range you're going to get out of it. And that's really what we had to do for you guys. We had to make sure that you were getting proper voltage range out of it so that when you go to level the system, it hits that spot every time.
One of the really cool things about having an air ride suspension on a truck like this is you get really nice ride quality. So tell us about the kind of ride quality you're probably going to experience on this type of rig.
Honestly, when you lift a Jeep, put 37s, 40s on it, generally you're going to expect the ride quality is going to go down compared to a factory stock Jeep. And really, I would say it's the inverse with this system. You get a better ride quality. And really, it's from two things. You get a nice floaty effect when you're going off-road with it, but then also when you're on the road and you lower it, the springs actually stiffen up a little bit. And what that's gonna do for you is give you a more stiff ride that's sporty, and you aren't gonna have as much body roll at high highway speeds, which everybody wants. I mean, nobody likes massive like Lincoln body roll on this when you're driving around. So it really is the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
Yeah, and especially like if guys are loading this up, they're putting rooftop tents on there, this is already sitting much taller than stock. You get on the road, you still want to cruise at 75, 80 miles an hour, or whatever your posted speed limit is. This thing drops down a little bit, and it's going to give you a nice grounded feeling while you're moving. And like I mentioned before, it might also help with fuel economy a little bit too, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah. And honestly, with the towing aspect of it, the cool part is in order for air spring to basically rise up, we put more pressure in it, and it kind of has an effect of increasing the spring rate. So what that means for you is even though you're putting a lot of weight in it, you aren't going to have a super soft ride like you might expect with a half ton or something where it gets really floaty. This is going to actually increase the spring rate as you load it, which again, you get that stability, that stiffness back. So it's kind of a dynamic spring rate, if you will.
I mean, it's basically having your cake and eat it too, which is kind of what we like to do around here. So let's talk about durability. I'm sure we're going to get lit up in the comments. You're taking this Jeep off-road, why would you put airbags on there? There's no way they're as durable as regular coil springs. Blah, 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 blah. Care to address?
Yeah, honestly, right now, we do a lifetime warranty on these guys. We have faith that they're gonna last. Couple of reasons being, one, we use a thicker rubber compound than most of the other people, and we have been using this kind of rubber compound with another company for the last 30 years. It's been driven, it's been put through the ringer to the point where we have full confidence in it. I mean, if something were to go wrong with it, send it in, we'll give you a new one. No big deal.
Nice. I did notice when I was unboxing it, I was messing around with them just because I like to touch things. I don't know. And the springs, they do feel beefy. They're like, when I pulled them out, I was like, oh, I kind of expected just kind of fold over and be flimsy. And I was like, oh, wow, this has actually got some rigidity to it. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how this thing ends up lasting over the years and how it rides and everything like that. So lastly, we did talk about how tall and how short this thing goes. How do you control it?
So how we do it is there's an ECU that controls this. Now, how we interact with it is one of two ways. There is a controller that is hard mounted in the vehicle and wired that you're always going to have access to. The nice part about this guy is it's contoured, so you don't even have to look at it when you're going over obstacles. You can kind of just muscle memory it and find where you have to be. This too has a nice concave surface on it. You basically locate that too, and then you know where it has to be. 2 is our ride height, which would be where we typically drive around at. 1 would be kind of our highway cruising speed, and then 3 is our off-road, kind of giving us better approach, departure angle, things like that. The other part of this that's really nice is we have an exit entry height on this. And what I mean by that is if you press this guy, it is going to drop the suspension down. It's going to drop the suspension down and get you actually lower than stock. Now this is crazy. This thing's on 40s. We have basically a ride height of 4 inches. We can go up to 6, 8 inches with it. But getting in and out of this thing is just like a stock Jeep. So that's basically the wired controller interface. The other version and method we have of doing this is through the mobile app. The mobile app is basically a mirror image of the touchpad, but then we also have some feedback on it. You can hit a button, it's going to elevate up, do what you need, and then we're also going to get feedback on the sensors. Basically where the arrow is where it's trying to target, and the bar is where it is currently. So right now it didn't go all the way up because I have the ignition off, and it just does like a quick adjustment on it to try and get it there. If I hit it again, it's gonna basically bring it up to the point where the rear is there. The front's probably not gonna go right now because the compressor's off. We've used all the air in the tank. It doesn't have enough air basically to get the front up at this point without the compressor further running. But with this, we have a lot of cool other features where basically we have system diagnostics where it gives you state of voltages on the system. You can basically see what the voltage on each ride height sensor is, which was critical for us when we had to set this thing up to get our voltage sweep and make sure we were at a point where the bias or the kind of ride height was at center of stroke for it. So super cool diagnostic features. Honestly, this is more of a tool when you're outside of the vehicle and you want to show off. When you're in the vehicle, go for the wired touchpad. Super reliable. You get the captive button feel. This, it's a little bit difficult to know where your finger is all the time, especially if you're driving. It's just one of those things. It's very cool, but it has its place, which isn't always driving. So.
I think it's pretty cool too how the app will show you those voltages as far as like setting this up on your own or just any kind of diagnostic issues. That's really cool.
Yeah, the other cool thing about this too is we have error codes on the touchpad, which are kind of a sequence of lights, and it's very difficult unless you have used our system before to know what they are. If you open up the app, it will actually give you a dialog box to say like, hey, the right rear sensor has disconnected. That means you might have a linkage broken or something like that. So it gives you a little bit more information than the touchpad just when you need it to. So.
Nice. You drop it all the way down again? I didn't realize how low that was. Just so you know, neither of us are like freakishly tall. Wow. So yeah, just so you guys know, I have like really short legs, and even I can. Okay, that's cool. That's really cool. I have like a 31-inch inseam, so just so you guys know, I'm like all torso. So a couple other benefits that you may not think about as far as having adjustable suspension is being able to fit into a garage. Let's say you do have your rooftop tent on there or any kind of, accessories on your roof, and you still want to be able to fit in your garage, or just parking garages. You have a normal daytime job, you want to drive this to your job, drop it down, fit right in. And also, I believe you were mentioning being able to get in and out of your tent in general.
Getting in and out of it, big one. You can basically drop the back, be able to not climb as high up on it. And the other one that's really cool is, say you're parking somewhere that's totally unlevel, rocks everywhere, you can't find a level spot. You can basically park and individually manipulate each corner to re-level yourself so you aren't gonna fall out of your rooftop tent in the middle of the night. I mean, that's huge.
That's pretty cool. Like the cool factor on that's pretty high. Like being able to get out, set up your tent, and be like, and we're level.
Yep.
And all your buddies are out there stacking rocks or putting bottle jacks underneath stuff. No, that's really cool. Another thing I want to put out there is we had to have Brad come out here and do this because we put so many parts on this Jeep that it now became a super custom application. However, that is not the case 99.9% of the time. You guys have bolt-on kits for which Jeeps now?
We have kits for the Jeep JL Wrangler, the JT Gladiator, as well as the JK. And that kit comes with shocks, control arms, the whole compressor tank, everything you need to get this system on. It's designed for you to install it at home, basically with a floor jack. No specialist on site needed, required. It's just up to you and a jack.
Nice. Well, sweet. If they want to see you guys on social media like that, how do they find you?
We're on YouTube, Instagram. Check us out there. We have tons of videos on Jeep. Basically, we've been out to Moab. We've been out testing a lot with this thing. You can check out some of its capabilities there.
Well, right on. We greatly appreciate you coming out and get this thing fine-tuned for us. You're going to be seeing a lot more of this in the future. And we appreciate Accuair getting with us on this project. It's going to be a good one. Cool. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks.